Hello, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I want to talk about the problems of capitalism from my perspective and what I see as just a common, ordinary citizen here in the United States. I realize that you probably must take multiple courses at college, multiple semesters to learn about capitalism and socialism. But I'm going to break this video down what I see the problem is in the United States from my own perspective. I'm going to talk about the problems of capitalism. Normally, I don't make notes for my videos, but this was an important one to me. I made some notes. You might see me looking down over there, and it's just so I make sure I hit all my bullet points from my argument. So let's continue on. Capitalism is a system where effort, hard work is required to enjoy in the profits of the system. Before I can talk about that, let me read you one sentence of what capitalism is in a nutshell. It's a noun, an economical and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than the state. Meaning that the country's trade, that's your business and industry, are controlled by you, the private citizens, the private owners, rather than the state, meaning the government. As with most systems, there is no perfect system. Okay, you're going to always have greedy corporate owners and whatnot, but there is no better system, honestly. There are some rules that you could follow to make the system work for you that used to be taught to us in past years. I'm going to go over these rules. Again, they are not detrimental because people, let's face it, they've been successful at capitalism with just luck. I'll cover these rules that will help make people more successful. But first, let me continue on. There's a lot of people who are being invited on the news media outlets, what I call the propaganda machine. They're being invited on these news media outlets to talk about the downside of capitalism. And there are some downsides. I'm going to cover that. However, these people who are being invited, these ex-politicians, these ex-corporate owners, these Hollywood stars and music stars, they've already made their profits off of the system called capitalism. Many of these people being invited, Mayor Bloomberg, for one, he's a billionaire. He's made his billions off of capitalism. So just remember that every time you see somebody talking bad about capitalism on television, it is somebody that's probably already made their millions, if not billions, off of the system. I can go on why they're talking bad about it, but that's another video. These million and billionaires, they're not going to tell you why the system's not working for you. All they're going to do is get on television and do what they're told to say. They're going to read what they're told to read. And that is why capitalism is bad and socialism is good. However, they'll never give you the inner details, which I'm going to share with you today. I want to talk about I broke this down into three phases. What capitalism is. I'm going to do the same thing for socialism, by the way. What capitalism is, I broke it down into, in its very raw, most simplistic phases, three phases. First phase is effort. The second phase is hard work. And the third and final phase is risk. Let's talk about the phases individually. Effort. That could mean an education and or an investment. And sometimes, let's face it, luck. What do I mean by that? In order to be successful, most companies are looking for an education. Again, not a requirement. There are a lot of lucky people out there. Or it can mean an investment into your own business for that matter. The second phase is hard work. Once you've attained getting a job, or once you obtained getting your own business. Hard work. That's just the second phase. And yes, again, sometimes just luck. Good luck. The third and final, the most important phase of capitalism, unfortunately, is risk. Now, what is risk? It's the gain of profits or losses from your hard work. That's what it's all about. Effort, hard work, and risk. Other than that, that's it in a nutshell. I want to also talk about what socialism is now. I'm going to read capitalism real quick one more time so you can see the contrast once I switch screens. It's an economic or political system, let me rephrase that, economic and political system in which countries' trade and industry are controlled by the private owners, the private sector, for profit rather than the state, meaning the government. Quickly switching over to socialism. A political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, your hard work to produce, the means of production, its distribution, and exchange should be owned and regulated by the community as a whole. That's important. Community as a whole. Now, obviously, the community is not going to be the ones who really regulate it or distribute it. No, what they'll do is vote in politicians who will do that. Case in point, it used to be done by the mafia, remember? And that was outlawed by the government. So it's regulated, it's owned, it's controlled, and distributed by the state. Quite obvious, there's two stark contrasts to this. The problem with that is that it's owned and regulated by the community as a whole. I keep emphasizing that word as a whole, which means if you didn't put any effort, if you didn't put any investment into it or get an education, if you did not contribute any hard work, you're still going to reap the third and final phase, and that's called profit. That's unfair. That is very unfair for the people who have to work. We see this a lot of times when we go and do our jobs and we go to work. If we're put on teams, you have your strong team members that contribute highly and effectively for the goal of the company. Yet the folks who are in that team or on that team, you see this also in school, reap the reward, reap the grade. And that's unfair. So I don't agree with a reward being equally distributed to a community as a whole. I believe each and everybody should work for their own profits and be rewarded individually based on their hard work. I wanted to talk about those rules that are not a must, they're not a requirement, they're not detrimental to the system of capitalism, but could be used in order to make life easier, to make capitalism more effective for you, to make chances of you succeeding more. These rules, again, are not detrimental, and they're based upon my opinion only. When I was a kid, by the way, I'm in my mid-50s, growing up in the late 60s, 70s, not only my parents, but all parents were teaching their kids these fundamental rules. When we went to school, I remember our teachers telling us this. 1st through 6th grade, I remember it. Even in junior high, I remember this. Don't do drugs. Don't have kids until you're ready, out of wedlock. that sort of thing. There's consequences to all your bad mistakes, they would teach us. I remember, if you do drugs, you're going to be a bum on the street. I remember that being preached to me by just about every teacher. There's consequences to bad mistakes. We were taught in high school, there is a system of which you progress. It was a system in which to progress through your life. Get an education. After you're finished grade school, maybe get a part-time job to help you get through college. Once you get through college, get a job. Progress up until you feel ready to get married. Once you get married, then if you feel that you want to have a family, get a family, have babies. It was that progression to succeed. And we were told it is not detrimental, it's not a must, but if you didn't follow it, there are consequences at which you might have to pay in the future. Moving forward to the mid-90s, 2000s, kids are not taught that any longer. I'm not saying as a whole every parent is not teaching their kids that, but I think those lessons are becoming more and more less frequent. I definitely know they're not teaching this in school. No, instead we're learning it's your body, you have a right to do what you want. Do whatever you want, it's your right. But they're not being told there's a flip side to that. They're not being told that there's consequences, ramifications. So these same millionaires and billionaires get invited on the news media outlets to spell out their lies, to tell the people why they're unhappy with their lives. Never once blaming the news media outlets, never once blaming the education system. No, instead, they spell out the lies that capitalism is evil and why they should vote for socialism and why socialism will take care of all their problems. Capitalism, it does work. But the problem is, yet again, many people are unable or unwilling to go through the first and second phase, the effort and the hard work. They're being taught to hate the rich corporate owners. And I'm not saying that corporate greed does not exist. I will say this, though, and I've been saying it for many years. You might hate rich people, and you might be jealous of them, but try getting a job from a poor person. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.